America.
AT&T isn't much better.
Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Everybody ready? Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'd like to call the October 26, 2020 meeting of the Special Common Council to order. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, start off roll call.
Bush.
Here.
Van Blaricom.
Here.
Isaacson.
Here.
Flam.
Here.
Leonard. Elton.
Here.
Okay, to start off the meeting, I'd like a couple of public announcements for everybody that's listening tonight. Jeff has opened up the Birch and Center Street intersections for crossing, so you're welcome to use it. Just wiggle around the barricades, there's room. And as of now, Main Street will be open on Friday, so woo-hoo, can't wait. All right. Number one on the
Can I
list.
say something?
Yes. Go ahead.
Just a reminder that the community club's trick or treating is this Saturday. Costume contest at the Danielson stage at Michael Park is at 9:30, and then trick or treating from 10 until noon at area businesses. So 10 until noon on Saturday.
Any more now? Public
And now with the
announcements?
street open, watch, be careful.
Yes. All right, number one, the website services invoice.
Where did this go?
It's under the
Monday.
meetings. And the
October meetings.
October 26th special meeting.
Oh. Sorry.
Debbie Elmer invoice.
There it is, sorry.
Back this spring when we updated the website, we needed to somebody to work the back end and get our calendar and other things moving forward. Debbie Elmer at that time came to us and agreed to it. She's qualified and applicable. She said she was going to charge $75 an hour, but we never got a time limit on it, and we never ask her how many hours it's going to take. So we finally got a bill, and the bill is $4,800.
Was there a contract for this service in place?
No, there was not.
Is there a budget item for this service in place?
There was not.
What's your pleasure?
Is there money to pay for it? I don't know.
Technically, but it's not budgeted for.
That was billed at what, 75 an hour, 70 an hour?
75.
So we got 48 plus 12 is
It's 54
60,
hours.
60 hours.
Okay.
Don't we have city staff trained to do that work?
Not really. This was dealing with the highly technical backroom working nomenclature. the city stuff, the city crew can add stuff, but to get in there and actually manipulate the program at the Civic Plus level, none of us here could do that.
Well,
I mean, I'll be the first to admit we needed to update the website most definitely because it was quite outdated. I guess, hindsight being what it was or what it is, I would have been nice to know how many hours were really being invested into it so that we would know what we're looking at as far as an expense, because I mean, I look at some of the things that are on here could definitely have been done by city staff. Again, that's hindsight. Yeah, now the question is, where do we find $4,800 to pay for this with?
is that stuff Taylor does now,
Mhm.
can do now? I think when that happened, we didn't have Taylor. And I guess my thought is, Debbie does a lot of promotion, if you will. She's a very positive influence in the city of Amory. Since it was kind of a, difference in expectations, if you will. I would say we should just pay it.
We'll get a contract next time and make sure it's in the budget.
Well, next time we have Taylor.
Okay,
We'll be tailor-made then.
I think if you do something next time, it's going to be, project-based.
Mhm.
How many hours to do this
Yeah.
particular thing,
Correct.
not
Well,
all of these at once.
yeah, our,
It was definitely our fault if we didn't have
right.
anything in place to know what was going to be done and how and so on. So,
Yeah.
No doubt that the work was done.
Yeah.
Figure out how to pay for it.
I guess.
So who authorized the work to be done? Because, yeah, there's some technical stuff, but emailing school, library, and churches and other organizations to coordinate information and encourage implementation of the calendar, 2 hours. Create graphics for annual events. I mean, that's technical work, but it's not beyond what city staff could be doing. So who approved that she would do this stuff?
yes, Patty and I were in the meeting with her, weren't we?
So
I'll
I
take the
pull back,
response.
I pull back my question. We cannot be doing business like this. We know better than this. We need to have contracts for this service. We need to have clear cut goals. We should not be having this discussion. We just can't say, let's do this project and not have money available for it or budget somewhere. So I hope it's a lesson learned somewhere along the way.
Cheap enough in the school of hard knocks. I make a motion, we pay Debbie for the work that she's done to date with the broad understanding that we aren't doing that again, so.
I think that should be part of the motion. That it's, done without, not done unless with direction.
Yeah.
So I think that has to be part of it, so we make sure it's not ongoing.
Can I say something?
Mhm.
I did approach her about doing a contract on at least 4 occasions. And yeah, we need to do a contract. And I said, I need to know what the hourly rate is. I never heard $75.
I will second the motion. Just reemphasizing that we need to do it right in the future. We need to have contracts in place. We need to have budget item in place. We can't just be, because this is not our money. This is the city's money.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 2022 budget discussion. Where do you want to start?
Hmm.
In your OneDrive, you can start from the top and go down if you want. I mean, it's listed, if that's where you want to do it. It's-
Harvard Police Union,
Did you say?
which has already been settled.
That's already
Yeah.
taken care of.
It's been settled.
There's no action needed on that.
Well, we approved in committee as a whole, and then we're coming to the final approval.
So we need, excuse me, so we need to approve this today in council.
I would say so.
Okay.
Sooner the better, then they can move on.
Should we go through each one? Because I see you got police union, you have medical plan,
Yep, that's what I, yep, just,
proposed budget, and
line
just
by line.
do each one proposed,
I think so.
Okay,
That might be easier for you, then you're not jumping all over the place and it's. right.
Well, and then it's just not one big bulk
Exactly.
motion as well.
Right. And I don't remember the numbers right off the top of my head as far as the police union goes, but I know there was a few changes for this year. Do we have to be specific about making that motion? Or since it was presented already?
It was
in
presented
committee of the whole?
previously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just doing a final approval on the final contract. We're just making sure you're okay with the final result.
Yeah.
of the-
So
with the
I'll make a
contract.
motion to approve the police contract for 2022 through 2024 as presented and approved at the committee of the whole meeting.
I will second that.
any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. 2022 budget worksheet. There's a lot of information here.
Yeah, I think we teased through most of this at committee. There was any huge changes to the plus or the minus were discussed. A lot of the major changes were because of shifting of positions or adding of positions and staffing and especially going into the new facility. I don't think there was anything else. Most department heads have some input on the public safety or the street.
I have one thing I would like to say, if you look on the parks end of it, I'd like you to decide, we want to do the pickleball court in the budget, that's $50,000. I kind of left that up to you guys.
Oh,
Can you explain that a little further? I guess I'm not
Pickleball
aware of what you're
court.
referring to.
Over at the beach, where they all play pickleball, it's pretty shot. So to repave it and everything, it's gonna be 49,000. Yeah, $49,126.
Ooh.
It is okay as is, you know, we could patch it up for a year or so, but they wanted me to put it in front of you and let you decide what you wanna do. I got pickleball committee called me sometime. I think that's in there, right, Ben? When we talked about it. But didn't even, forget it,
I'm not gonna,
okay, forget
that
it.
is something we can include in the GO on it, so. Capital expense.
Well, and that would be considered a capital expense.
Yeah.
So I guess that decision comes down to when we get to that point. Is it feasible to put it in? I guess considering the year, I might suggest to push it a year and see where we are
Yes.
next year, because we're kind of going into a year of unknowns, but we'll see, I guess, where that goes out. That's my opinion on that particular piece.
I would agree with you.
And we can patch it up too better.
Mhm.
okay. Should we move on to the other budget parts in here? And then come back to this?
I-
or,
I just want to make a comment just in general, like going through this and it seems as though we're really under the pressure to get our budget to a certain point. And I understand and appreciate that. However, I also don't want to be cutting corners. And also I don't want to be making departments suffer because of that. And I think that that needs to be taken under consideration when it is saying, okay, well, if we're going to push this next year, is it really feasible to do that? We're going into a year of unknowns and it's going to be hard, but I would really hate to not do projects that need to get done because we want to stay within restraint. So I feel that's pretty important. And some of the things that are on the list that I know you had come up with a list, I guess we need to decide what takes priority without cutting too many corners.
I think the question that needs to be discussed is why are these cuts being made? And it's to stay within expenditure restraint. At some point, and we've been talking about this for several years, at some point, we may not be able to qualify for that. When is that point going to happen? And I know a lot of communities are struggling with that same exact
Yeah.
question.
Mhm.
You know, we're meeting expenditure restraint over here, but we're doing other stuff over here to try and balance it out. But I think at some point it's gonna we're just not gonna have to say, we're not gonna meet it because we need to do these projects.
It was close this year,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Do we know what the school's levy is gonna be this year? Have you gotten anything from them?
I don't know.
oh, it was, you got it, it's in that survey that we got, it was 736,
Are they dropping?
yeah, from last year, yeah,
How much?
$1.14. But if they come up with a referendum to push forward and that,
The referendum won't hit till next year as far as
Correct,
any
correct.
expense.
Yeah.
goes.
and then we're gonna have costs for our debt, quite a bit of cost for our debt payoff, so might be prudent to stay with the budget restraint.
Well, I think at the start of budgeting next year, which is August, one of the first questions we need to answer is, are we gonna even try to stay within expenditure restraint? I think we're there for this year,
I think we are too.
but I think we need to reassess that, and I don't know if that can be answered right at that start end, or.
You kind of have to look at what's the advantage and disadvantage, because what do we get for the supporting that
$70,000.
$53,000.
53 something, yeah.
And
So-
that's,
So that's a pretty significant
that's,
hit.
that's gonna
on-
raise your levy.
It's a
then.
pickleball court.
And we're looking,
Yeah.
yeah, well, that isn't just the pickleball court. If you
No.
lose that 73,000, yeah, you know. I think we should, we're the projected mill, if we pass the budget as it's presented tonight, is a 2.5 mil increase. Well, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's $250 on $100,000 home. And there ain't too many of them in Amory that have been constructed much after mine that aren't gonna be assessed at $250,000 this year. I don't think so. I really personally would advocate that we, I don't want to tell the departments necessarily how to spend their money, but we know we're gonna have a significant road expenditure this year because of the beating that, Riverside and the park have taken. We know we got some work to do on Harriman. I don't know where else Jeff's got projected, but those costs, I mean, those have to be done. And I think, my own thought is that as close as we can hold the departments to at least the amount of increase that have gotten with our increase in valuation would not be a bad deal. I expect we're not gonna be able to hold it, right to that. But if we could look in the neighborhood of 1 mil instead of 2.5, I think it would go a long ways with our citizens. I know nobody likes to pay taxes, but again, I keep harping, somebody's gonna be tired of me saying we're only 2,800 people. So my advocate would be that we figure a way to cut some of those expenses maybe in half and allow our department heads to determine what part of that percentage that they're not, how they're gonna work on that percentage. Obviously, if it's all wages, we know that's gotta, we gotta do that. So if you want to go line by line in the departments, I guess but I'm not really necessarily interested in doing that. I just think that the bottom number is one that says, this is, you're at X number of dollars, you have to reduce that by, percentage and figure out where your budget is. Because like all budgets, this contains some wish list. Enough budgets over the years to understand that you throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. If it all sticks, you did really well. If it didn't all, then you got to figure out how to do it differently. So.
But I think before we can approve or move forward with the budget here, I think there's some other details we need to make decisions on first. And one of those being the insurance.
Yes. Yes, yeah,
And that's gonna have a
and
significant
I
impact.
do agree with it, and we gotta go through Patty's list of things, and so let's move on to insurance.
This is,
We're gonna come back to this.
I understand. I just was
Yeah.
thinking that was going to be part of a closed session
Okay.
conversation, but it's not.
I figured benefits and wages, no, that was closed session.
That's what I thought.
Oh, okay,
Can we move on?
yes, we can.
What?
We're gonna talk about that in closed session.
Okay.
So let's move to the proposed library budget.
So in the meeting last night that the library board had, I was zooming in and listening to everything. And I know, John, there was some questions that we had. I'm directing them to you because you were saying that there was questions that you were going to be able to answer that. We had some questions last week, I think it was, just with finite questions. Act 150 was one of them. What was why the decrease in that this year?
You can put the mic.
Sure.
Okay, sure.
I know you have a list of things that you're gonna address, so that I know is the first one. so.
Okay. So, yeah, the big question about Act 150. So 2019 was the year. What year? We're in 2021. 2020 did impact 2022 funding. So the year of COVID does have an impact on county funding. However, The two variables that are impacted is total expenditures and total circulation. So the expenditures for the library for 2020 were down some from 2019. And obviously circulation was down. However, the cost per circulation went up. So when we look at Polk County funding, that was a wash. There really is no difference between what impact that made on what you as a city were receiving from Polk County. The difference actually is from St. Croix County. So the circulation either decreased or increased proportionally in most of the counties. In St. Croix County, the people that came in from St. Croix County dropped significantly. So in 19, it was around 20 or 2,100 items. In 2020, it dropped to 400. So if you figure it was about, the cost per circulation was about $9.44 in 2020. So that drop really accounted for about $6,000 in decrease in funding. So it was really from St. Croix County. So my guess is it was probably individuals that didn't have a need to come to Amory anymore. So maybe it was a teacher, business owner that wasn't coming to the community as much from St. Croix County just because things were different. So that's really the difference there.
So this is the beginning of the impact from COVID.
Yeah, and generally, if things stayed proportionally the same, there wouldn't have been an impact. The real difference was there was that proportional.
Intercounty.
That intercounty was significantly different in the decrease. Barron dropped, for example, but it was close to about a half a drop. So it was about 50% drop, which is what was consistent with the rest of the circulation drop. That one dropped significantly.
What do you see happening for 2022? I mean, so far your circulation this year is,
Well, if spending stays the same and circulation is similar to what it is now, that cost per circ is still gonna be in that $9 range. So it probably will have minimal impact. The variable becomes if circulation bumps up a teeny bit and the cost per circ goes down, but there's not a proportional increase in the county usage, then it could negatively impact dollars. And there's no magic way to predict what funding is going to be from year to year from the county because there's too many variables in there. Most libraries were not significantly impacted because of it, other than some odd anomalies like this one. Cost per cert generally doubled.
Were there any appropriate savings from not being open for a substantial part of the year?
The library itself, the physical building may have been closed, but the library was providing service most of the year. There was only a short period of time when there was an executive order from the governor's office and health department where all libraries in Wisconsin were closed, and it was a 4 to 6 week period of time. That was the only time library services were not occurring within Wisconsin and within Amory. So again, if they were to reduce their expenditures, the formula would have been negatively impacted because then that cost per circ would have been less. And that would have had a negative impact on the library.
So is there any savings from that 4 to 6 weeks that they were closed?
Generally, library staff were working when they were at home. They just were not allowed by that order to be in the library.
And what were they doing? And how was that tracked?
I don't know for exactly what the library staff was doing here, day to day, but in general, they were doing virtual programming. They were doing professional development activities. They were doing book reviews, doing all of the stuff
I would be asking these questions of our librarian if she was here to be asked these questions. But unfortunately, she's not here.
Right.
That's why I'm asking these questions now.
Yep.
Because, 4 to 6 weeks is a significant amount of money when you're talking 2 full-time employees and 4 or 5 part-time employees or whatever. If we had John Incorporated and we were all working for them and you said, we're gonna be closed for 4 to 6 weeks, but I'm still gonna pay you, that's fine, because it's your money.
Mhm.
The money to pay these folks is tax dollar money.
Right.
Don't care if it's Act 150, don't care if it's city levy, it's all taxpayer money. So we need to account for that time. What were they doing?
And they were working from home, doing,
Doing what?
they were,
I don't need you to answer it, but you see where I'm going with this.
what, right,
And we need to account for this money.
and so.
And because here we're closed for 4 to 6 weeks and there's 0 savings in the budget. So what happened to that money? Were these people being paid? I mean, if they're being paid, what were they doing? And we need to be able to track that. So I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just making a statement that,
And-
that's the situation we're in.
And the flip side of that equation
Mhm.
is if they were unemployed,
Mhm.
that money would be coming out of the library budget. So they would have been being paid out of library dollars for not doing anything. There's
Do we not have unemployment insurance?
no, not as a municipality. You do not pay into unemployment insurance until it's a pay-as-you-go system for municipality. So it's not budgeted expense. There's no insurance for it. It's coming out of your budget as you pay for it. So in a way, there's a set amount of money that's going out for personnel regardless. Yes, there's a differential in there, but staff was doing work at home. They were attending meetings, they were doing workshops, they were doing work.
Okay.
Exactly what they were doing, I can't tell you. I do know they were working. I do know they were doing programming virtually. I actually participated in some of the things that they were doing virtually. So I do know that was going on. And I think there was one other question about the FTEs for the staff, how it compared. And the staffing level here at Amory, when you compare it to municipalities of a similar population and a similar circulation, their FTE is right in that ballpark, within a half a FTE or so. And I think the other piece that was the additional staff was to help with the additional circulation desks that's downstairs, so that there would be somebody there whenever the library is open, so that there's people available to help patrons on both levels of the library to make sure that the level of service remains similar to what it is today. And that was the intent of that. And I know the board was also looking at making sure that there was sufficient wage dollars to retain and recruit staff. There is a chunk of staff that are being paid less than $12 an hour. So when you go to Quick Trip, they're looking at $13, $15 an hour. McDonald's is up to $12 an hour. So trying to make sure that the staff is compensated adequately to make sure that they stay. And I do know that was part of their conversation at the budget. Betty's here from the library board too, as well.
Two things occur to me, and you aren't gonna like either one of them. Put it bluntly, we have a library director that was primarily the only one that was absent from the library for a period of 7 or 8 months, probably today yet, I don't know for sure. I don't think that's acceptable. Everybody else during COVID, and I mean everybody else that worked for the city, made an appearance, did their jobs at the city level, at City Hall. The street department was open, the police department was open, the fire department did all theirs. Seemingly, our library director was not seen in and around the library except very occasionally for, the bulk of the year last year. That's not an acceptable issue. Just putting it bluntly.
So Betty can speak to some of that. but-
I've known Betty for that's Amy's question. That's not Betty's question,
But
why weren't you here? So you don't need to.
I can answer that question for you. So the library board approved a COVID service plan. Part of that plan was developed based on reopening guidelines that were issued from the Department of Public Instruction in consultation with the Department of Health Services at the state level, as well as the Economic Development Reopening Guides. One of those pieces in that guide states that if an employee can work from home, we are encouraging employers to allow people to do that. Amy was at the library. Amy was in contact with her board. The board did provide guidance and evaluation information to help work on improving job performances and communication and those things. Amy was attending meetings, whether she was doing it at home or not. That's a decision that the library board made, and that was a group that made that decision. And Amy's not here tonight because she's on leave for her husband's funeral.
Yeah.
And she, during the time he was dying, she was working on behalf of the library. She may not have been in the building, but she was working. I was in contact with her on numerous things, so I know she was working. So she has given her all to this community, and she has worked very hard. Even if she's not been in the building, she's done her best. And libraries across Wisconsin have struggled trying to figure out how to respond to COVID. They want to be safe for their community, they want to be safe for their staff, and they want to be safe for their patrons. There is not a magic answer for any of this. But they all tried to do their very best, and everybody responded differently. When you have 40, 50,000 people that walk into your building on a yearly basis, that's a lot of people going in and out in a very small space. And they're a 1-year-old to a 99-year-old. So they have to be careful of everybody. And if staff had issues with health that they needed to take care of themselves or their family, that was one of the other recommendations. If you have at-risk staff, to have them work from home. And that's what that plan entailed. And they were following the plan, and the board was keeping track of what was going on.
You have 2 things?
No, that just,
That answer is no.
yeah.
Any other discussion?
I'll ask a couple questions of Patty. The numbers that are on here as far as electricity, water, sewer, gas, conduct fees, et cetera, are those numbers, what are those
you,
numbers
Jen.
based on? Because I do believe that you presented were given numbers. I know in the conversation last night, I think the comment was that the numbers were put in the budget that were given by Patty. Is that correct? So do these numbers fall into line with that? Or should these be adjusted based on
These
new
numbers,
calculations that you've come up with?
the numbers in there reflect what they budgeted the previous year.
That's right, everything's the
Which-
same.
I believe. Amy
Actually,
asked
yep,
me
that
in
was,
Late September about it.
yep, that's what it was. I'm trying to remember the conversation. So that's what it was.
Yep.
Can these numbers be adjusted now based on calculations that you've done based on projections for all the other departments?
Not solidly. The best guess we have is from the original, when we were looking at buying that building.
Mhm.
We got in contact with the facilities people over there, and their total yearly cost at that point with all the old equipment there was $39,000 a year for everything.
Now everything's upgraded, so it should be less.
The current cost just for library and police utilities at the condo association was 48,000 a year, so.
So do we use that 39,000 as a benchmark in making these estimates, or?
We use them, I use them in my own budget worksheet,
Okay.
yes.
That's kind of what
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah, without knowing what improvements, if any, are gonna be,
Exactly.
the 39 is a known, so that was used as the
That's
benchmark.
what we did. Yep.
So potentially these numbers could be adjusted based on that.
Correct.
Just, we have more information now
Yes.
than when Amy started working on this in August. I just know that it's something that we had talked about just within the last couple of weeks. So,
Yep.
I mean, I do really think that there's could be some adjustments made for those, for those,
For the 20.
for
the
utilities.
Electricity, water,
Mm.
gas, all that.
So has it been, when we move into the new facility we got, is, we're gonna budget for, and try to budget for the first year, but to get through the first year, are we gonna do this by square foot and to charge it off to each
Correct.
police? city?
Mhm.
That's the plan, yep. That's the most fair.
Okay,
You know, whoever uses their part of the building, that's their utilities.
so that 39,000 would subtract from the police department there and get a percentage,
It'd be
and
split 3 ways, yeah.
Well, yeah.
so that,
Not evenly, but.
Not
Yeah.
evenly,
Not-
but it
no,
would be split
right.
through the departments, yes.
How much should our total valuation go up this year?
It didn't,
No,
it
it
went
went down.
1.8 million or so. Find the,
He's got the computers quicker.
went down 1.1%.
Why, you know, man?
I don't, I'm just taking this off the budget handout from the auditor.
That's what came in there.
So it went from 165 million and change to 163,774,000.
And that contributes to the overall 2.5% increase, right?
That
2.5 mil increase. not
That we
2.5.
haven't had a reevaluation in
Yeah.
14 years.
Yeah, oh joy.
and as long as we're talking about expenses, supplies, maintenance, repair, garbage, telephone. Is that gonna be split up accordingly? Same percentage? Okay.
Same,
So you won't have to change light bulbs for years.
Let's hope not.
Yes,
The
yeah.
electricity will go down a lot. So,
So how do we get new information to the library so that they can better plug in the numbers into their budget? Because I think it's only fair that it be adjusted such that they're going from the same numbers as us, so that we are actually comparing apples to apples instead of having old, out-of-date information. How can we get this information
we can plug in
provided
that
to them?
information tonight and let them know what we're anticipating.
And then you can communicate that to who?
John? I don't know.
I think you probably Ashley and.
Ashley, I
myself.
would think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's in it's in everybody's best interest to be comparing apples to apples instead of having
Yep.
old, out-of-date numbers, because we didn't know anything
No,
different
But it's
until just
understandable
now.
that they put in last year's.
Oh, yeah,
numbers.
that's what they were
String
drafted
up
to
the
do.
two.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it's, is this, this is approved as of kind of, but not really. It's not finally approved because it depends on us.
They approved the appropriation request
Got
to the city.
That's what I thought.
As a board, all the other numbers were placeholders because again.
Exactly.
The
Okay.
utility stuff is unknown at this point.
And that's kind of where we're going to. It's
Yeah.
So are we gonna go through and, we got electricity, water, sewer, gas. Say that's 39,000 and if we can do a percentage based on square footage. Do you want to do anything with the maintenance, repair, garbage, telephone, library? You want to make an estimated guess, and then for the total for the percentages, because they're gonna need that too, I would assume.
The Act 150 appropriations, that's in concrete now.
Nothing's in concrete until the county boards pass their budgets, which typically is mid-November.
Because the counties ended up with a fair chunk of change as far as their COVID money, so maybe they'll be.
Yeah.
Generous.
Yeah, I can't see that. I can't see that. That word never came to my mind.
Yeah, the Act 150 money is outside of the county levy limits, so
Yeah.
that doesn't impact their other services, so. You know, I believe Fran was here and discussed at one point whether or not their county's gonna go from 95 to 200%, that has not passed yet.
Okay.
St. Croix County's been paying it 100%, so they've actually been paying Emery at 100%, which is unusual. Most adjacent counties only pay at 70%, so.
Well, 2021 was approved was 272,996. And 22 proposed is 267,05, which is basically $6,000 basically.
And I guess I have a point to make. Ben and I were just talking, but if we give the appropriation, I would think that electricity and water and sewer for the library go down about a third.
Yeah.
But that's up to them to plug in those numbers, and then we give us, we give them the appropriation from the city.
We know that those are gonna be fluid numbers this year.
Exactly.
So if we made up the $6,000 that Act 150 is proposed to have dropped, and we went with 206,000, which is a $6,000 increase, 3%, right? That would make the monies the same as last year. Then any proposed savings in water, sewer,
Yep.
et cetera, would be to the good.
To the good of the library. Yep.
I could live with that.
If you add 6,000 out of that, though, you gotta cut 6,000 somewhere else. Out of the budget.
Out of our budget.
No, because the proposed here on the library figures is
Yeah, that's not
$230,000.
what's in our budget though.
Pardon?
Yeah,
That's not
that's
what's in
not
our
what's
proposed
plugged in.
budget.
Yeah, we
though.
put 200.
Oh, and that's not in our
Well,
proposed
the
budget.
underbuilt ERP worksheet was based on 200,000 keeping it flat.
Mhm. So then the 6 has to come from somewhere else.
Yes,
Or from the savings.
Well, there's already there's a zero in the condo fees for the next year.
yeah,
Mhm.
for both the PD and the,
That's 27,000 last year.
I guess the thing too that I would like to stress is anytime we go over, it's coming out of the fund balance.
Yeah.
And with our geo bond, I don't want to mess with that because that's going to affect our bond rating. And we've got a pretty good bond rating right now. I don't want to keep taking from fund balance.
Yep. So if we go with 200,000 for the library budget. And we get 2/3 of the way through the year and find out that our numbers have not been what we thought they were. Is there any way to, can we go back through that? I suppose we can, but once again, that would have to be,
That's an amendment. Yep.
Yeah.
We have to amend the budget.
because right now we don't, I mean, we're plucking at numbers when they
Exactly.
say what we're gonna do.
You're making educated guess, not
No, we don't
completely
know.
pulling it out of the air.
Right, right. I
Because the
understand
point,
that.
the point Sandy made, or Sandy. And my brain's back at work, sorry. The point Patty made was that with changes in fixtures, changing in lighting.
Yeah.
Is a huge one. Efficiencies in heating and everything else. And the efficiency of having 3 in 1 should be pretty predictable.
However, we know there are gonna be some more expenses on there too for the monitoring system and, that there are going to be some costs associated with that.
Yeah, I just meant that it's not completely
Right,
plucking things out of the
right.
air.
Yeah, no, I agree. So the budget, proposed budget you got is proposed with the same
Correct.
expenses last year.
I'm in favor of leaving it at the 200 as it is. And because there are a number of variables, extreme variables. I mean, gas, electric is always variable, but it's even more so this year, not knowing what we're going into. If nothing else, and we can sit and debate this all night long on what, and that's not our job to debate how to run the library. But they may need to take some cost saving measures along the way, just like any other department in the city would have to do if they got into a budget issue. So be it that they're a $500,000 budget, roughly $493,000 budget, there's room in there to work that budget to take cost-effective measures.
Well, there's a line item for 2 new hires, and some of those
Well,
things can
that's-
be postponed, it's not necessarily not done, but done as needed. And
Mhm.
one of the few places where there's an opportunity.
Correct.
And I guess the cleaning,
Yes.
that's
I don't know that
identified
one
within
was
the
on there
budget, and they do twice a week, from what I understand, and the cleaning expense was 800 a month, I think, somewhere in there.
I'm not sure of that. That
So there
that
are,
looks about
there
right.
are areas, and I don't want to waste our
Areas you can-
time debating them, but there are areas that
That
they
can
can take
be
cost
looked at.
saving measures.
And
And
the
if they
city's
need to
looking
do
at
that, that's what they need to do. Again, any other department would do the same thing. Street department, police department, fire department, and
Cleaning as well.
Make that a motion.
sure.
I'll second the motion.
Motion to keep the library budget at 200,000.
Okay.
For the city.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now, we got Amory float costs. We'll at least talk about it.
And this shit just came today, sorry about that, but
Okay. Oh, yeah. So in essence, they're asking for about $7,000.
or whatever we can contribute.
Correct. We give our room tax money to the fall festival to spend,
Community club.
community club.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we could direct the community club to use part of that.
Yeah, because it has to be used for tourism.
Yep, and we're advertising our town wherever it goes.
About how much is that?
Yeah.
12,500 was
Just
the
over
budget.
13,000 last year.
Yeah, so
Oh, so there's plenty of money in that.
Where does that fall on our budget, or is it just turned around and?
Yep, it comes in.
I'm saying it goes out.
If
So we
you-
don't
if we
keep it.
retain anything, the DOR really doesn't like that.
No, we can't keep it. So it comes
Do you
in,
have,
goes
do we have any say in what they do with it? It just needs to be used for tourism, but
We can, I would assume that we could put. I don't know.
I don't know how their budget works. And if they have it dog-eared for something else, or
I
what the
don't-
case may
I
be.
don't believe we technically get a say.
Mm-mm.
We
Yeah.
could strongly recommend.
Yep,
Yes, that they use it.
correct. You can strongly recommend.
Yeah, we could do that. but I don't know what they,
So, yeah, so the community club is gonna put $5,000 towards
Yeah.
the cost of the float.
and the total cost estimates were 12,000.
Seemed like that would be a good expense for, or good
Use
place
of the
for
monies.
tourism money. I mean, like I said, they are representing the city. really all over, so.
The,
And
So I
that
will
will,
just let the
and that
powers
will
that
have,
be know that that's where we're sending our money and.
and that will have no effect on our budget
No,
at that point in time.
do we have to,
I can just ask them, but that's,
oh,
yeah, what- I
okay.
can't direct them to do, I mean, I could just
right,
mention it.
got it.
Jeff?
This is what we'd like you to do with this.
Yeah, I will,
but
I will mention it to them. Yes.
Strongly suggest. Okay, I don't know if we need to get into email correspondence. Unless somebody here wants to,
Are we not going further through the budget?
right, so. Let's go to city administrator budget priorities.
Sorry.
Okay, this is a letter from Patty.
Okay, so basically, I had discussion priorities. Number one, I said fireworks. Should this be a city expense? Could the community club take this on? I know it's $8,000, I believe, is what we spend every year for fireworks. There's been talk, do we need to have fireworks? Do we have it another time? I mean, there's been so many discussions.
We share that with community club now,
Right.
so it's our
But it-
part is $4,000.
But, okay, 4,000. So that being said, is that something we still want to contribute towards, to have the fireworks? Last year was a debacle. And Jeff, you can certainly agree with me on that. We hired a company, we may need to look at a different company.
Yeah, we're not having them back.
They left us with a mess. Basically,
They dropped the fireworks off.
they
the
dropped the
lot.
fireworks, they said, here you go. None of the public works crew had been trained. And in the past, it was always the firefighters that have been trained. Luckily, 2 firefighters stepped up and they helped. Thank goodness. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it was
bad.
bad. So, I don't know. I know the public really likes the fireworks and I know they would like to come to see them, but it's just a thought, you know, do we continue with them? What do we do?
Is that 4,000 in the budget now?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
there. But it's just something I thought I'd throw out there.
You know, we've been struggling with this for the last few years since,
They took away our spot.
well, the fire department stopped sponsoring it or taking it on. And I think you're right, we do need to find somebody who's gonna take it on, who's gonna be the shooter, who's gonna do all that. You know, we can support them with city staff and services. But we don't wanna be in the fireworks shooting off business.
Oh, no, not at all.
So I would think if we could find enter into a service contract or whatever the appropriate means are with a qualified corporation or company.
Yep.
That would be fine, but
But if we
if we can't find somebody to do it, then if we're not gonna do it right, let's not do it.
let's not do it. That's kind of my point.
There's no reason we can't do it. We're not qualified. We don't have the gear or anything. It's
You
a
wanna
bad
take on the
idea.
liability.
It's like-
After
Liability,
watching
yeah.
those things go off.
There may be a change of heart in the fire department regarding those.
Well, I hope so, because, I mean, it just makes sense, because they're in gear, they're ready to put out the fires that need to be put out. A
Yeah,
fire
There's,
truck needs to be on standby if it was really dry this year too. And we had to get a fire truck there to manage that. I mean, it's just important.
I think we should check with them guys to see if they'd do it. I think, like I said, the things I've been hearing said that, yeah, they thought they should do it. They were.
Yeah.
They were,
And we have insurance for it. I don't know where that came from, but we have insurance, so they'll be covered. So.
Yeah.
I think it's just something we need to investigate.
Just need somebody to take it on.
Perfect. Yep. So that being said, okay, and then library tax appropriation, we already talked about that. Monthly utility billing. PSC is encouraging municipalities to move in this direction to monthly. It would also ensure a steady monthly cash flow for the city. Your thoughts on that? I don't know. Postage is going up. One thing I did want to talk about is the next line, which would be the role that the city needs to have in billing for Waterman's. I know Paul had talked about it. Waterman's isn't getting charged for the services rendered to the city. They don't pay for postage billing, et cetera. The city should bill Waterman's a percentage of the amount that we bill and remove the quarterly service charge to the user. Everybody on the back of their water bill gets a quarterly service charge. So you pay for that. We can deduct that amount from paying them also. So I guess my point is charge it to Waterman's. No, because we're doing their work.
If we're providing them a service.
The reason that's like that is that years ago, the city council or the city got a fair, I don't remember what the amount was, but they got billed less for garbage pickup and removal
Okay.
than surrounding areas. I'm not sure if that's still the case. But if it is, that difference was what drove the city to send out the monthly, the bills.
Okay.
Because it was just an addition on our quarterly water and sewer bill that we sent out
Because I know last
anyway,
year,
right?
well, last year we spent over 190,000 for garbage service. The city, and that was based, the taxpayers paid that.
Yes,
So.
because this is just for residential, does not
just
include any
residential,
business,
not commercial.
right?
So that's part of the monthly billing. I guess there's two parts to this. I mean, do you want to,
Well, one
Examine the
question,
role
do you,
and the
do you
billing.
incur any additional costs by doing monthly instead of,
postage? You'd have your postage costs.
and what does it do for billing time for staff?
Oh.
Availability, whether you call it a cost or not, there's a soft cost in
Right.
putting it together.
Well, luckily for us, we invested in a postage folding machine, which has been wonderful. Taylor does that and it takes 2 hours
Okay.
for her to do that. As far as entering, doing the reads, the guys drive around town, that's minimal,
A day, one guy.
one day. So that doesn't change that part of it. I think it would be really good for water loss. I think when you
Something.
discover a leak, you don't discover it for 3 months. So if you've got significant water loss somewhere, they won't know about it until they do the read. And it's better for people to budget. I think, if you've got a water bill every quarter, it just makes more sense to have a monthly bill for someone. I don't know, it's just my thought. And then we have a steady cash flow.
Could we explore something like online billing as well?
Yep.
I don't get a letter from Excel every month.
Right.
They send me an email
Right, yeah,
and I tap the app and
Mhm.
it gets paid.
yeah,
I
that's it's a
think
matter of.
that also would
Yeah.
reduce that postage and handling
Yes, it would.
and just be a click and
Yeah.
off it would go and get better response.
Yep, and people, what they have to do, the way it's set up now, I think, is they provide their email, so they get an email.
So, but we're talking about increasing public works from 4 days a year, driving around to
To
now
12.
12. So there's an
12.
8-day.
Yep.
8 days additional wages spent getting that information.
And then there is, we've sent out 1,000 bills.
Yep.
And that's 50 cents a piece, so that's an extra
$500.
500. So that'd be 1,500 times 4, about $6,000. So,
But on the other hand, we would get better payment. Because people just, it would be budgeted into their, when we went to it clear, like we got much better payment result than we did every 3 months.
Because you're sitting there putting a lot at the end of the year on tax roll.
Mhm.
I don't know, it's just something. I
Does the
wanted to
city
do.
able to like on When I pay 99% of my monthly bills, I have it under bill pay at the credit union, and I just go down the list and I go bang, 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 and send the whole things out. It takes me maybe 5 minutes or 6 minutes to put all those things in. Is the city set up to accept electronic payments?
Yes. That's right there. ACH.
Yep, 2.5% charge, 3% charge.
And do we charge that extra for
No.
doing that? No.
Well, anytime you have a credit card, there's a fee.
Yeah,
And the city doesn't pay that fee, the customer pays that fee. So you would pay that fee. if it was
ACH
done
isn't
ACH.
it doesn't cost me anything to
No,
to
because it's done
send
through your
it.
bank.
It's not through
It's
your
done through your
bank, this
bank.
is through the city. So
Yeah.
city would.
They actually write a check
They
and send
actually
it
write a
to you.
check.
Well, or if you can take electronic payments, you get that, it just goes gone and they get it immediately.
They actually write a check.
Not everybody does. Amico doesn't and Menards doesn't. That goes. The credit union, at least the one that I've got now, they say check sent, it tells me that they send checks, because not everybody does accept electronic payments, I know.
I don't know, and I did some search on ClerkSent Network just to see how many municipalities do this, and there were a lot that do monthly.
Electronic payments, oh yeah.
And even the monthly billing, just about everybody going to monthly.
A lot of people are,
So is there software involved in that?
no, you're just billing them separately, different. Right now, we bill quarterly and you'd be billing monthly.
No, I mean,
Your account is set up that way.
You would
So
have to
no
let us
software.
know, and then we would. Yes.
okay,
Yep, you would have to let the city know, and then the
that's
city
what,
would take
that's
care
what
of
the way mine is right now. So
Yep.
it just comes out
it. Would come out.
every 3 months.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
you can do auto pay.
this is just a discussion. I mean, let's look at it next year, but I think it might be the wave of the future. I think it's coming down to that. PSA is requiring that.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to look at that and the recycling and
Yep.
and all this, and I got a feeling that also we bill monthly, and we also collect for Waterman's and collect $250. The city gets about $10,000 a year from that fee that's in. Now, as we move forward, that fee goes, the city will still get the fee, but the Waterman's price will probably go up, so at $2.50.
So I think we need to find out from Waterman's what I pay for garbage in the city is $57 a quarter. Is that what it is? For
That was
for a 90
Depending
for
on
a
the
90
size, yeah.
gallon, yeah,
Yeah,
for
it
the
depends
bigger.
on what size container you
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
So for 35 gallon, it's 51. For a 60 gallon, it's 51, and for a 90, it's 57.
yeah. I got a 90 gallon. So
Yep.
so if that's $57 a quarter, but if I lived out of town and I had a 90, does that cost me $80 a quarter then, or
Is there
so,
advantage is what you're looking at?
right.
When Dick was here last fall, it was
Mhm.
$24 in Osceola per month.
24 per month, so
Yeah.
that's a fairly,
$72.
that's $72 versus 57.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If he was talking about 90 gallon.
I think he went through the whole.
Yeah.
What they pick up, what they don't pick up, and same thing.
These are things to consider, I guess, for the future. Summer Thursdays. 7,000 was requested from the city to continue with the funding of the concert series. Is this something the city wants to fund? This item is not included in the current budget as it was cut to meet the expenditure restraint program.
I've been working hard to get sponsors, halfway there. Can get some more sponsors if the city of Amory Parks and Rec sponsors it, because then we can make donations to the city of Amory, which are tax deductible. So I would say up to $7,000. And if we can raise more than that, subtract from 14, subtract what we raise and ask for that. Request that in the end. Make sense?
But the city also has expenses, in-kind expenses. Street department, DPW provides support for all those things. They're using our facilities. You know, what's the price on that? You know, my understanding too was we would help for a year or two to get this program going, and then it would be supported through revenues or sponsorships, or however he decides to carry on with it. Do I think it's a good thing for a community? Yes, but we need to make some pretty tough decisions too, because we've got some pretty big expenses coming our way. We have a city hall, we have a brand new downtown that incurred a lot of expenses. And we have some pretty big expenses down the road as well. It's only 7,000, but every little bit helps.
That's just half of what we did 2 years ago.
Yeah,
And did we do 7 or 14 last
We
year?
did 14 last year.
last 2 years.
So this is half.
It's about half. Mhm.
Well, if the crowd sizes were any, I mean, to me, the whole thing is, brings people to town. But I'd like, if our businesses are capitalizing on that particular thing, if Thursday, and I am not, advocating that they be open Thursday night just for the additional people coming to town, but I've always felt when people come to Amory to things like that, they expect to spend a certain amount of money. I mean, nobody goes to be entertained any place without thinking, well, the kids are gonna want popcorn and pop and whatever else, But if the businesses are finding out that they see some more business, I think it's worthwhile.
Downtown situation will change a lot from, instead of having the detour running right past the venue,
Yeah,
which is a problem, but also I think it was challenging for businesses on Main Street to maintain their business this past
pretty
year.
much.
And even if people don't spend money, you get people in there and go, oh yeah, payment.
Yeah.
And some maybe haven't been there before, and now there's a reason a reason to come back. So if there's a way to do it, to at least partially fund it, I think there were a lot of people that talked about it. They kind of thought it was fun and unique and an interesting way to spend a Thursday night.
But
So
I think this year the access to it was
horrible,
a challenge.
Yeah.
horrible.
And that might have been a very big deterrent not to get some of the crowd size to it.
Completely agree.
And then I would also say, if Jeff could come up with what it costs, let's say this goes on, we do it every week. What would the city like back in return on a weekly basis for a fee or something for cleanup on? We'll get that covered right away too, so the city's not.
But the way it's written here is that this is not in the budget. So
Yeah.
if we have to carry it in the budget, something else has to go. Or be reduced.
Yeah, I would entertain the thought of, the city coming up with $3,500 plus city services still being utilized, which would probably, I'm assuming would take us to 7, if not beyond 7, without really putting much thought into it. Would that be an accurate assessment, you think?
Stuff set up a little bit, clean up afterward.
So where are you coming with $3,500?
I was just looking.
That's the challenge. All things that city provide is important to somebody. Pickleball courts are important to somebody, the tennis courts are important to somebody. You know, the concert series is important to somebody, so how do we best spend our money?
And therein lies the question.
Okay, well,
And
Well, let's
then
put
my
that on the
last-
back burner, and if you can find $3,500.
And then my
Right.
last point was, and I know this isn't favorable for everybody, but capital expenditures. I believe the city should borrow the 1.4 from Baird. They'll set up a geo bond for us. The expenditure restraint program this is the only way we had to fund before. And we've had to cut a lot out of our capital expenses. Jeff, you can maybe talk about what you're looking at. I put in here, needed projects, DNR is looking at salt sheds for.
Yeah, they want us to, of course, like everybody else does, have a covered salt shed. You know, because ours sits out and we throw a tarp over it. They're not real crazy about that. They'd like, you know, we're getting by. But they want us to get a salt shed. And then on where the shop expansion, we're just jammed in tight. We're putting trucks in sideways and making them fit right now. We've got stuff sitting outside, which is either that or build another pole shed. I just gotta find out if it's gotta be a state approved, we gotta put up a shed just to keep the stuff out of the weather. Because public, I don't know how that works.
Mhm.
Do you have any,
I got an estimate on. You know, too scary, 40 feet on the back of the shop, so it'd be 40 by 80,
mhm.
400.
you put up a pole shed, just put stuff in.
Yep. And it could be heated.
Half that?
Yeah. Cause the thing is, we need to heat it, cause half the stuff's got water, you know, that goes.
Yeah.
It's diesel.
You know. Yeah, looking at
A
options.
building new is always cheaper than adding on or remodeling, always.
Build inspector. and
So
just-
what size shed would you think about building if you have 40 by 80?
40 by 80, probably go 40 by 100. If it was a different shed. That would give us plenty of storage. I mean, even some of the stuff we've got jammed around outside in different places, you know. Like that room. You've got all the trailers at the sewer plant full of junk. and
Yep, oh yeah.
barricades and got stuff in the dam building jammed into that. We gotta try to move the community club stuff to get to our stuff and make it, we got there, you know. We're just running out of space. All the machinery's getting bigger.
Any possibility of putting a salt shed in the end, one end? Separate it, so
Anything's possible.
maybe
Yeah.
just a random,
I think
random
before
thought.
we can really make a decision, we need to come up with some options.
Well, and also, is there a kind of a working list of what that 1.4 would entail? Because I don't,
There is not.
I
don't
know.
There's not, and the only reason I say that is because there's so many unknowns. I mean, there again, there's so many unknowns.
yeah, but I guess it would be nice to have even a thumbnail,
Okay, yeah,
just to say,
Hmm?
what if somebody says, well, why are you borrowing 1.4? Would like. to
well, I
be
know
able
the
to-
roof for the new city center is 200,000.
Right, so I just would like to say
Okay,
200 here, 200 there, it comes up to 1.4 pretty
yep,
fast.
and we will be discussing this at the,
And I'm sure as
actual
time
borrow.
goes by, you get a little more detail and
Correct.
better able to
Yeah.
detail that out.
so I know I've started on that, and it's scary, the amount of money that it's going to tick up to, and I know we're already over budget with the city center the way it stands.
Yeah, and
I
we should
just-
come up with a cost estimate for what more we want to put into it.
Mhm.
Um,
'Cause there's things we have to do now that we can't put off. I mean, there's things that
Right.
have to be done, and the project's not done yet, so we're over on the 4.25. Sorry.
But we need more information too to make
Yes.
proper
Oh, yeah,
decisions.
definitely. I can do that for you. And then, like I said.
And we don't have to say yes to this
No,
tonight
you
by
do
any
not.
means.
You do not, because we're gonna talk about it in November. But.
It's coming.
It's coming.
We don't have a list, we have nothing to argue about.
Exactly. So I mean, it's like I say, it's kind of a guesstimate now. I've got a few solid figures, but I'll get that for you. So definitely.
And just FYI, the budget as it sits now is assuming we're borrowing the 1.4 million addition.
Because you've moved some of those capital expenditures and things
All of them.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
out. Mhm.
The difference for next year between the $900,000 option and the 1.4 million is like $800. So we just budgeted for the higher one.
But there's a balloon at the end of 10 years.
Yep, both assume that we're gonna refinance in 2031.
So it's a refinancing situation.
At 27% interest back and.
Well, and there's no
20, 30 later.
penalty to pay it back sooner. You know, if we borrow and we want to, we don't need all this, we pay it back. and
We
there's no-
better add a lot of houses and new businesses, that's for sure. All right, we're done with that. Anyway, let's see, to go with the any proposed wage rate and budget numbers. I think we went through this at the last committee of the whole, most
We went through that in September.
September, so,
I put that on there just for closed session if you
okay.
wanted to address that again.
Okay. And anybody want to look at the updated 2022 expenditures to restraint worksheet?
No.
Pretty cut and dry, there's nothing we can do there. Okay. And the last one on the list is the 2022 updated budget handout.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I guess what I'd like from you tonight is looking at the levy. I know we can amend it, we can change things, but we'd like to get the notice in the paper. It has to go out in this November 2nd paper to meet our budget hearing, which will be November 17th. We certainly won't hold everybody to the fire on those numbers, but it's something that we're talking about and it needs to go in the notice, so it hits the paper.
Is that the 2022 budget handout?
Yeah.
And we have until the budget hearing to make changes. So it doesn't.
But it can't go over,
No,
no. But the
No, it
changes
can't
have to be
go
in
over,
and through
but-
minuses and pluses, yeah.
exactly.
I'm gonna roast Tom for a minute. Tom, what do you attribute the rise in operating supplies and expenses from 18,900 to third in 2020. To 35,000 for 2022.
I think I explained that last time there, but we purchased tasers under a contract this year that the council approved there, and there's a yearly fee that we have to pay at that, so that's what's added up to that. And I talked to Ben about
For
that.
the cameras and the tasers and.
It's for all, okay.
I guess I would, so you're looking for a motion to be able to move forward with the 2022 budget handout.
Yeah.
Right, I mean,
Yeah,
the
just-
numbers are what they
Just so
are.
we can get the notice.
I would make a motion to that effect, then that's approving the 2022 budget handout for publication in the paper.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Is there anything that we're gonna be discussing in closed session and potentially affect that?
We're talking about employee benefits. Police sergeant position and employee benefits.
So that could be a yes, could be a no.
It could be a yes.
So,
Yes.
But we only, to still be within the expenditure restraint, we've only got $1,700 we can play with, so
Right.
it's not gonna, I mean, we could increase it by $1,700 and,
Yes.
I mean.
Yeah.
Unless we're gonna forego the expenditure restraint, which is not advisable.
I don't think it is because your taxes will increase even more than what they are with this.
I guess call the question.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think one thing that would be helpful when we do this next year is that we have a meeting probably in September and have, so Jonathan is here so we can talk through all this. We're coming in here, we get a budget laid out, but it'd be nice to do a little work with, so he can explain and we can explain how it's all come about. I think that's missing this year. I think they've done a very good job of what they did. It's but it would have been nice if we had a little input on it. So,
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think, the expenditure restraint question needs to be brought up at that time and, is it something we're going to continue to pursue or not?
And then you
What
can hear what we heard.
Because who knows what it's going to be next year? Rules change on that every year. It seems. So at some point we gotta say, is this worth the benefit?
I kind of wonder that myself.
Adds another 2 mils onto the tax rate,
Well, can I point out something? In the general government, it went up because of attorney's fees. We spent money on attorney's fees. Our wages and elections. We have 4 elections next year. We only had 2 this year. And you approved wages for myself. And so that went up for that purpose.
Well, and also the readjustment and public works and.
Yes.
The cost of labor is not decreasing.
Mhm.
So
And I just want to point that out to you. I mean, that was the big part of the reason why the budget increased. It wasn't because we are spending any more money on anything. I mean, you look at the breakdown of everything. Paving's gonna have to go up.
90% of our budget is wages
It
and
is.
salaries.
Wages and salaries.
Not
Yep.
just-
So just so you know that, we could certainly go back and say, yeah, we'll cut it. But then you're cutting wages.
We need to protect our investment.
That's right.
Yeah, we talked about it last night too.
That's
You have
just,
to.
that's my 2 cents.
Mhm.
Sorry, but
It's true.
that's a big part of it. And we're basing it off of what was spent and what was budgeted, and we stayed within our budget. We all did, so.
Okay, I think, are we ready?
Yeah.
Yep. To go in closed session?
Want to read it?
Oh.
Don't mean to rush things.
All right.
Getting dark.
Okay, closed session, Wisconsin statute 1985 1C, employee benefits, potential police sergeant position, and employee wages, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance of evaluation of any public employee of which the government body has jurisdiction and exercises responsibility.
Motion to go into close.
Second,
Roll call?
Strollbush.
Yes.
Van Blair, John.
yes.
Isaacson.
Yes.
Lanham.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Elton.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll take a few moments while Larry breaks down.